one tree in the yard that Barley can do his nails on. And he just did. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. You're looking at a couple of Platonic solids. The largest or most complicated one that I've succeeded in making so far is the dodecahedron. However, today I'm wanting to talk to you a little bit about the icosahedron. I'll show you pictures of there they are, the Platonic solids. So there's the icosahedron, which actually, so the dodecahedron, the one that I've been able to make, has 12 sides, but the icosahedron has 20. And the reason this is important is because of water. So hold on just a moment and let me get another book so I can show you another page. Okay, hopefully you're seeing that. So they're talking about a theoretical supercluster of 13 interpenetrating icosahedra, showing how easily they self-replicate like fractals. And this whole book, which is called The Spiritual Life of Water, I read this a few years ago, and it's going to be something that I take off the bookshelf and read again. However, and he's got some really, really amazing photos in here and things about, so these flow forms, this is something that is used in biodynamic gardening to create a way of recharging the water. You can see a bigger one here. The way that patterns in nature, to me, patterns in nature are continually about water expressing itself in beauty. And I choose to know if anybody else has thought about water in this way. And then, of course, Masaru Emoto. And the other thing I'm here to talk to you about today is today, the 25th of July on the Mayan calendar, is known as a day out of time. And back, and I'm going to pull another book here, so I'll just flip a few more pages so y'all can see a couple more really amazing photos of water. All right, hold on just one second here. So just briefly, the day out of time is universal, a day of reverence and respect for all life, a dedication to the beauty of eternal time, and an outreach of cultural and community exchange and education relative to the concept of natural time. July 25th, Sirius, the dog star, rises with the sun. This day is free of time in the 13-moon calendar, and it's a day of reverence and cultural appreciation. And I was listening to one of my astrologer channels that I listen to, and we are moving out of the blue rhythmic storm. Now, I don't know anything about Mayan calendars and stuff like that, but I had for many years now known about the day out of time, and there's another connection to the day out of time, which I'll share with you in a few minutes. So we're leaving this blue rhythmic storm, which has been about transformation, intuition, energy, vision, healing, and excellent for people thinking and weighing all the options towards an ideal and creating new possibilities through the realms of thought and activity. And I have a friend who says thoughts are things, so choose them wisely. And so what we're going to be moving into is the yellow resonant seed. And so this is going to be about help with follow through, completion and balance, honesty, really, really stay in your honesty. And it's a cheering element, providing upliftment for those you love and the relationships you're choosing to nurture. That's this year from July 2025 into July of 2026. When we reach the day out of time in July 2026, we'll be going into the red galactic moon. And this will be initiation, beginnings, passion, flow, exploration, and evolution, sparking of new ideas and communities, which are flashy, and they'll be instigators and facilitators, and it will be focused on becoming knowledgeable, and again, honesty is going to be the essential ingredient. So that's just a little bit about the Mayan calendar, which all I can tell you is what I researched from the astrology channel that I was listening to for this new moon in Leo at 2 degrees. Okay, now on to the next part. So read a little bit out of this book, Water, the Element of Life, what I was just voicing. And what makes water capable of all these feats? Renouncing any form of its own, it becomes the creative matrix for form in everything else. Renouncing any life of its own, it becomes the primal substance of all life. Renouncing any material fixicity, it becomes the implementer of material change. Renouncing any rhythm of its own, it becomes the progenitor of rhythm elsewhere. Is it any wonder then that in all highly developed cultures, water has always been held sacred as the magically transforming substance, as the very water of life? Now, how do we go about re-enlivening water? There's no other way than to develop what the professionals themselves describe as new water consciousness. So long as the other two members of the societal organism are subordinated to an over-proliferation of economic life, the lofty, selfless being of the watery element will remain a stranger to us all. We must take to heart words recently spoken by an insightful hydrologist, and this is from 1971. The initials VDI Nachrichten. People have not yet entered into a right relationship with technology. We must learn to think in a different way and change that relationship. Man, whom all our efforts, including those in the field of technology, should serve, must be made the central focus of this new way of thinking. Technology's ingenious accomplishments are the product of the conscious human spirit, but human intellect is not by any means our highest function. Despite the wealth of its ingenuity and its logic, it lacks depth of feeling. It helps us determine degrees of efficiency and guides us to economic application, but it has nothing to offer on the score of good and evil. It does not motivate us to resist the bad. Intellect permits the misuse of technology in carrying on wars, in greed for possessions, and in other evils. Trends like these can only be fought on an inner soul change on the part of every individual. Again, this is coming from this book, Water, the Element of Life. I'll leave the ISBN numbers below the description in this video in case any of y'all are interested in doing a deep dive. So back in 1986, Dr. Emoto was searching for a low-frequency therapy equipment for some of his Japanese health products, and which he helped acupuncturists and other practitioners. And he was concerned that although technology existed for measuring water's content, there was nothing available to measure its quality. And so he began these experiments, taking water from various places, first around Japan, but then in other areas, and freezing the water droplets and seeing what kind of ice crystals formed. And if y'all, I don't know how many people remember him or even know about him, but this was a fascinating discovery for me back in the 1980s when I first came across his work, and how praying over water and exposing water to music, exposing water in a container, exposing it to words, changed when they froze the water. It changed the crystals into different structures. And so the other thing I'm choosing to tie in with this from his work and the Mayan day out of time, which I just found this so fascinating that these two things coincided. He asked that the 25th of July also be the day that we send love and gratitude to water. And he did the first ceremony at Fukushima back in, I believe it was 2011. Let me see. I can find this. Hold on, let me look for that and I'll come right back. It was in 2011 that they were doing this, the first ceremony. And we can still do this ceremony ourselves. I mean, I have a very big awareness of water. In North Carolina, the first place I lived had a creek that ran at the very base of my 9-acre farm. And then later, when I moved to another location, and my husband and I were renovating a house, that property had a spring, and the spring was shared with 2 other neighbors, and it became a daily awareness of sharing this water with my neighbors, and everyone being very aware to protect the source of the water and also to use it consciously and then not waste it on things. And then of course there was another creek in front of that house as well. I seem eventually to end up on properties that have rocks and water. And so now I'm here in New Mexico. This place is very dry, and I'm super aware of water, and have been, with the help of my landlord, set up rain barrels to collect it, as y'all have seen in some of my other videos. So I know I'm jumping around a lot in my thought process today. The important message I'm choosing to give you all is July 25th on the Mayan calendar is the day out of time. July 25th was a day to give honor and respect to water, and this was set up by Dr. Emoto back in 2011. And of course, all the indigenous cultures have strong beliefs about water being life. Mini-Wakoni was happening back in I want to say it was 2017, 2016, when the pipelines were being proposed to cross water sources for some of the tribes in the Dakota area, and people were gathering and protesting this. Now we have microplastics in water and so many chemicals in water, and water is still life. And so I'm just putting this out here today on the day out of time to make your own little ritual. Yes, the protests were in 2016, and whilst it did not stop the pipeline, there was legal compensation for what was done to the waters, and it brought the plight of indigenous people's rights very much to the forefront, at least for a little while. And bring it forward into the days ahead, into this new year. Bring it forward. Stay conscious of how precious water is. And I know water can also be destructive. Many of my friends in Western North Carolina and Eastern Tennessee were badly impacted by Hurricane Helene, and I posted videos about that, and there are still people returning to the area and continuing to give updates on the restoration process that's going on in this part of the country. And of course, it's not the only place that's been flooded out. There have been bad floods here in New Mexico. There have been floods in France. There have been floods in Africa. There have been floods everywhere. And my perception of this is our planet, Gaia, is asking us to be aware of her, asking us to have respect for the elements and the life she provides us. And if we are not doing that, if we are not conscious about how we're using and perhaps not appreciating what is here for us as a gift from Mother Earth, then these things are going to make their presence known in a way that is going to be uncomfortable for people until we take notice of this. So let me show you some other books. I know this is getting kind of long, so hold on. So here's some percentages for y'all to contemplate while you're thinking about the holiness of water. The Earth is 71% water. 96.5% of it is contained in the oceans. A human body is 60% water. In a honeybee, 50 to 90% of a bee's body, like other insects, is water. Plant nectar is 80% water. So while the bees are out there gathering nectar to turn it into honey and other products that they use to live, they're collecting mostly water. If you have a dog, your dog's body is 70 to 80% water. In a cat, 60 to 70%. Birds, 55 to 70%. Trees are 50% by weight water, yet their leaves and needles are 90 to 95% water. There's a book by a man who passed back in 2015, William Marks, and that book is the Holy Order of Water. And this book, if you're interested in water, and this man is a brilliant writer, I would highly recommend getting this one and enjoying it. If not now, during the summer, those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, certainly as autumn goes into winter and you may be inside more and tuning into books, this would be one I would highly recommend reading. So, all right, something else I really need to share with you. Hold on one second. Continuing my exploration into water, I recently got this book, The Living Language of Water, by Veda Austin. She lives in New Zealand. She has been picking up on the work of Dr. Emoto and doing her own experiments with exposing water to images and emotions and photographing it. And her technique for filming the water is something that she explains at the end of the book, and anyone can do this at home. So I'm not going to tell you what it is, because I really I would really like people to get her book and explore it on your own if water is something that's fascinating to you. But I'll just read the back of the book. It says, hundreds of years ago, water wasn't referred to as water. It was called the waters. It was considered living and sacred. The term, her waters broke, is a distant memory of old knowledge trickling down through the ages. But the living language of water might just open the floodgates again. Using her simple freezing technique, researcher Veda Austin has been showing the world water is visibly responsive, not only to our thoughts and emotions, but to music, frequencies, words, healing pictures, and even film. So those areas, again, back to the places that have been experiencing floods and the places which have been experiencing droughts. It's on us as human beings, the link between the planet and the heavens, a spiritual being having a physical experience. It's on us to bring prayer and love to the planet and to honor water, and to, through our prayers and our honoring of this amazing living substance, we can bring healing and we can mend the places that have been damaged by floods. In addition to doing the simple things of making a donation or physically being boots on the ground to help people after one of these events, if you're not able to do those things, you're still able to do something. There's one other thing I would like to read to y'all, so hold on just one moment. This is from Proverbs 8, the verses 22 through 31. And this has been one of my most favorite scriptures. The wisdom of God cries out, "You, my God, created me when your purpose first unfolded. Before the oldest of your works, from everlasting, I was firmly set. From the beginning, before earth came into being, the deep was not yet when I was born. There were no springs to gush with water before the mountains were settled, before the hills I came to birth. Before you made the earth, the countryside, or the first grains of the first world's dust. When you fixed the heavens firm, I was there. When you drew a ring on the surface of the deep, when you thickened the clouds above and fixed fast the springs of the deep, when you assigned the seas its boundaries, so the waters could not disobey you, and when you laid down the foundations of earth, I was by your side, a unique craftswoman, delighting you day after day, at play everywhere in the world, delighting to be among the human family. So that was part of the proverb about wisdom, and the sound of water you've been enjoying in the background has been the cat's water fountain. Thank you for being with me today on the day out of time on the Mayan calendar, and July 25th, the day of gratitude and honor to water. See you in the next video.